Hi everybody, welcome to the Art Workshop. I'm Christopher Epling. Thanks so much for tuning in today on Pike TV. We're really glad you did. Us here at the Art Workshop, we love to produce content that is informative, fun, and educational. So on each episode, you're going to find us using different mediums to produce art. Sometimes our content or a subject that we focus on is landscape. Sometimes it's watercolor, character drawing. Sometimes it's even just looking at some sort of still life or something that we pick randomly just for a subject. So we haven't yet to date, though, worked with this particular medium that we're going to talk about today and focus on today. Now, I do understand that a lot of times the tools and materials that we use here on the show, not really easily accessible there at home, but oftentimes it is. We use a lot of pencil, we've covered graphite, we've done watercolor, which is really something that's found in most homes, especially if you have children. So we hope today we can be a little accessible, be a little different, but we'll cover that just in a bit. First though, I want to share with you some amazing work that's been sent in. Now this is some local artists who have watched the show and they want to share their work with you and us, and we're proud to do it. Before I share this with you, I would like to say that we're showing only a small portion of what we received. We've received a lot of really amazing examples. If you send something in and you don't see your work today on today's show, tune in because we are going to be sharing everything that we received in following shows coming up. So be sure and be on the lookout for your work that way, okay? But here's some amazing work that was sent in recently here at the show. So check this out. I told you, we have some amazing artists in our region and we love and appreciate you sending in your work. If you're interested in sending in your work, it doesn't have to be what we've drawn here. It could be your own art that you've created that you want to share, such as examples we've shown. You can send that to me directly at eplingillustrations@gmail.com. So the email address is on your screen. Copy that down. Just send me the image. Let me know who you are, where you're from, how old you are, things like that. Let's say you have a child that, or even if you're a teacher and you have students that have created work and you'd like to send in on their behalf after you get the permission, please do. Just include that information for us because we really want to let everybody know who created it, okay? All right, wonderful. So in today's episode, we are going to be doing what's called relief drawing, which is basically drawing backwards. Now I don't mean really drawing backwards like over my shoulder. I mean actually like changing from drawing dark on light paper to light on dark paper, which is really blows your mind when you think about it because this technique is super hard. Now you can imagine drawing on paper, that's one idea, like graphite on white paper, but to imagine drawing backwards, like coloring in all the areas that's white, leaving what's dark, it could be really hard. But I'm going to share some examples with you first before we get started of artists who have created this method and done some amazing work. So here's some examples. Yes, believe it or not, this is a real drawing. This isn't a photograph inverted, taken and then changed from light to dark. This is actually white graphite on dark paper. It's unbelievable. So you can see how difficult this is. This is actually a photorealistic drawing, so this is a little more detailed than what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to be starting from really basic, but it's just unbelievable to see what some artists can create using this method. Here's another example. Now this is done a little more freestyle. This is a little more different. This is actually with using squiggly lines, light lines to actually create the image. It's not as strict and detailed as photorealism, but it's pretty amazing. This is a technique that's very hard. It's almost equivalent to early block printing, because you would carve out what you'd want to be dark and leave what is light. So here's another example. This is a little more photorealistic than the previous, almost like the first, but you have to imagine this isn't a photograph. This is a drawing. White charcoal or white graphite on dark black paper. It's unbelievable. Look at the smoke. I mean, how do they do this, right? It's just amazing. Some more examples that we have. This is a landscape draw. This is actually, you can imagine standing on a beach late at night, taking a picture, black and white film, or nowadays it would just be black and white option on your camera. But this is actually white graphite charcoal on black paper. So in today's show, I thought, being inspired by the landscape drawing, and we don't want to be so bound down and technical that we're trying to do a photorealistic example right off the cuff, I thought we would try to do something like a landscape but incorporate some sort of type of drawing, biological drawing on top of that, meaning in terms of a subject like a real life living creature. So combining those two together, like we've seen earlier in those examples, we're going to be trying to put that together today. Now, I understand a lot of folks do not have black paper laying around, but you might have black construction paper and you might have a white crayon. If you have those two things, you can actually draw along with us today. So grab those out if you have time. We'll give you a second. Okay. No, just kidding. Try to get those together as we're talking and getting ready to start. You have a little bit of time now. While you're getting that together, we're going to go ahead and show you the materials that I'm using. I'm using, of course, black paper. So this is black construction paper, literally. 8.5 by 11. These come in larger sizes. You can go all the way out to 27 inches by 11. There's tons of different options. At your local hobby store, you can find this. But this is 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Now, we're going to be making marks on here that's almost similar to drawing graphite black on white, but it's going to be a little different. So I'm using, this is a couple of these. So this is a little shorter one. I've actually sharpened that down a lot more, but this is General's Charcoal White. So I'm not endorsing any brand. We don't here on the show, but I do want to let you know what I'm using. And I may, if the opportunity presents itself, use a white gel pen. This is just a simple white gel pen you can find at any office store or hobby store, or actually even the type of big box store around. So that's the materials I'm using. Now, notice there's no eraser, so that's really scary, and it's scary for me because I like to erase. I need to erase. It's important to erase, but there's no eraser here. So when you make a mark, it's on there. So you have to really follow along with me today, okay? I'm going to be starting out using just the charcoal pencil, okay? When I make a line or a mark on my paper, you make the same mark on yours. So follow along precisely with what I'm doing, okay? The first thing that I want to do is I want to do an outline of a deer. Now, I know that sounds like, okay, I don't have an eraser, how in the world do I do this? This is a little challenging. Yes, I know it's challenging for me too, but follow along with me slowly and we'll get through it, okay? The first thing that I want to do is I want to draw the ear. So as you can see now, these lines are small. So this shape comes down like this, and then it comes down at an angle, and then it goes back into the ear, the head. So there's one ear, okay? It's really small, I know, but just bear with me. I'm gonna go a little further over. I'm gonna draw the other ear, which is gonna be about right here. So it comes down like the other ear and back in. So now I have two ears. Now I kind of know now where the head will be, right? So this deer is going to be facing a light, or the moon, and so I'm going to draw just a little bit of the head. I'm going to see just a little bit, and then the back of the head here, going down to the body. Now this is, imagine a silhouette of a deer. So this isn't going to be like drawing the deer outright. This is the silhouette of a deer. So we're going to be coming down like this and then back into the body. Just like that. This actually could be an elk. We'll say a deer or an elk. So what I've done now is brought this line down and back in to form the chest. Okay. the back of the deer, down, a little bit of a hump right there, and it goes out and circles down. There's our back of our deer or elk. Okay, now the deer has a little bit of a tail right here, so make a little line like that. This will make sense the further we go into the drawing, okay? All right, next shape we're going to make is the leg. So you want to make the first leg coming down like this, all the way down, stopping. Now we're not going to be drawing the entire shape of this leg. The reason being is we need to actually draw the silhouette. So there's areas that's not going to be lit up by light. So we're only going to be seeing the shape of this animal. And the reason we're not drawing the hooves of this animal is that the hooves are actually going to be darkened in, and we can't see those because of our light source. So there we go. Now draw with me, along with me. Don't get overwhelmed. I'm moving fast. I wish I could slow down for you, but we only have so much time. You just have to kind of do the best you can. And you know, after you draw along with me, you can actually go back and redo this. All right, so now we're going to work on the back leg. It comes down like this, all the way back, kind of waving in. Now, we stop right there. We're going to do the leg that's furthest away first because we can see only the silhouette, remember. This technique is very difficult. This technique is one that takes a lot of practice. It's one that, you know, when done well, it really can be just shocking to some that see it because they're not really sure how in the world did you do that. Now, so far what we've done is pretty much basic drawing. We're just drawing white on black. This is almost like drawing with a black graphite pencil or gray on white paper, but we're not drawing the hooves, and all this will start to make sense in a little bit on how this turns into a relief inverted drawing. This is the easy part, which is difficult still, but I know, but bear with me. All right, so now the antlers. Starting on the left side, well, let's do the right. Starting on the right side, we're going to draw the antlers. Now this definitely is an elk, I think. We'll make it pretty big. We'll make some big antlers all the way out, up, and stopping, just like that, see? Okay, I want you to do the same shape over here, coming off from the ear, out, up, stopping, just like that. Okay, so we have the similar shapes. Now, we're going to work with the antlers. So we're going to make a few of these little notches, just like we're drawing a deer, without worrying about what's backward drawing or any of that stuff right now. We're not worrying about that just yet. Okay, we just want to get the shape of these antlers correct. Okay, that's the most important thing right now. And to do that, you're just going to make a series of these lines coming off of the antlers, coming out, all those pointing upward shape, leaving a little bit of space here where we can't see much, right? That's important too because we're actually going to be coming in a little bit later and adding those detail in. All right, coming down again, and one more coming up. There we go. Now we have some antlers. All right, this comes down to the top up here. There we go. There's one side. Now let's work on this other side now, getting all this in correctly. These antlers come down. Each one of these points come up, forming the shape similar to the other side. And once you start to see all this come together, it's going to make total sense to you. But as of right now, I know it's sort of hard to see what we're doing, but just bear with me. There we go. So there we have the shape of the antlers. Now, here's where the fun starts to happen. All around our deer, we're going to put trees. How we do that is backwards to what we're normally used to. But we have a little bit of a starting point to go by, right? So the first thing what I want you to do is you're going to draw these lines coming back like this. Now these are at a certain angle, so you have to be careful, okay? The lines that you're drawing are parallel to a point, but they do get wider as they come out. So you see how that works, just like that. Now remember I told you not to draw the hooves, right? There's a reason. We're going to be drawing the light source for these hooves And what I mean by that is that around all this, this is going to actually be dark, and where you would actually normally draw shadow, we're going to be drawing or coloring that in white. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense just yet, but you'll see in a second how that works. So I've drawn some lines coming off here. Now I've drawn lines coming off of where each hoof would be, and then I've also drawn lines coming in between the deer here. So what I'm going to do is start off, this will be the easy part, I'm going to lightly color in between our little elk's legs, and I'm going to draw this coming out like this. Just color in between your lines that you made. Now you have to be careful here. You don't want to color the lines coming off of the hooves. You're doing in between these lines. See? It comes all the way out. Just color that in, all right? Come over here, do the same thing. Color this in. All of this needs to be colored in. Once I do this, you're going to get a better idea what I mean by this inverted style drawing. And this is where the difficulty level kicks up about 10 notches because you're drawing backwards. See? Typically, if you're drawing this deer and you're using, let's say, a pencil, you would be drawing in, or coloring in, I should say, these areas. This would be where you'd color black or draw in black or fill in black, however you want to say it. This is where that would occur. But you're doing this completely different now. You're actually going to be working invertedly throughout this drawing. So let's continue on. Now, how you draw these lines matter. We've covered perspective a lot in the art workshop. So I want you to, if you haven't saw our episodes on perspective, just remember that the lines have to follow each other, okay? They can't be going all over the place. They have to follow each other. So, for instance, the lines coming off the hoof here will follow the lines coming off the back hoof here. And they actually will sometimes connect or go away from one another depending on the light source. So, for instance, what I've drawn here. All right, so there's light coming from this angle into our elk. Okay, what I'm trying to do is establish where that light is first in our drawing so that you can understand exactly what we're doing, okay? Now, I'm going to make another line coming all the way out. So this comes all the way out. It's actually going to connect with this line here. It's coming down this way. It's going to connect in right there, okay? And then I'm drawing another little line just like that. Now, this is where we're going to go up. This is forming the first tree right here. The first tree is going to go up this way, just like this, straight up. So really far off in the distance, straight tree, okay? Up here will be the limbs in a minute, but all right, so in between this tree, we're going to draw two lines right here. This is where our light source is going to be coming from, right behind this tree, or series of trees. So, if that's the case, then we need our light to come back this way, right? Just like this. Coming back, just like you've drawn those other lines and filled those in. We fill this in the same way. Once I do this, you're going to understand how this works a little bit better. If you have white crayon at home, you don't even really need black paper. You could do this on a really dark colored paper, but it has to be dark so you can see the white. There you go. Now you can start to see a little bit better about how this works, okay? So all this area will be filled in here. And we're going to put this line that I asked you to make earlier is actually because there's going to be a tree here. So we'll make this one a little wider than the first one. So this one's going to be a little bit wider, not much. Now there's no limbs yet. We're going to work on the limbs in a little bit. So all this area now is colored in white. Now the goal here is to make a series of these trees extending all the way across our paper and filling in between. That's the goal, okay? Now there's a lot of space to fill in. So you're going to do a lot of this shading just like this, okay? Once we have this light source established, you'll be able to see a little bit better how this works. It's a little difficult to see exactly how this works, drawing lines, I know, but we have to establish this light source and the shadows, because really that's what we're doing. Instead of drawing in the shadows, which you'd take like a pencil and draw those in, you're actually going in and doing this in reverse. So you're actually drawing, if you will, the light, okay? All right, so we have another tree maybe over here, but in between here, this is all going to be light. Light extending back to the leg of the deer. And what's happening is you see this light's hitting this leg and it's creating this shadow behind the deer here. That's the whole idea. All right, so this shadow is being created by the legs of the deer. And the goal is for us to continue doing this until we've almost got the effect of there being light coming off, breaking off, establishing the shadow, right? All right, keep going. Now, that's the goal throughout this entire drawing. The goal throughout this entire drawing is to establish shadows using negative space or drawing backwards. It's not a technique that is easily done, but if done right, you can actually do it right and you can get it to work out. So now behind this tree, we're going to draw a light source, or at least a portion of the light source. So we're going to draw half a circle right here, just like that, and then we're going to fill that in just like this. So this could be the moon, or maybe a light from a flashlight, or something of the sort. Then on the other side, we're going to draw, as you might guess, more of the same. We're going to draw this entire shape behind this tree, reflecting here all around, establishing where the light is and where the shadows are. I'm going to leave this space right here because I'm going to put another tree coming up just like this, and then going on this side a little wider. So this is a little bit wider tree going up just like so. Now let's fill in this space. The shadows from this tree is going to be coming back like this. So that means that all of this space here will be what? You guessed it. We're going to continue this process all across the page. This is the goal. We've established our light source now, so we're in good shape. We can kind of see how this all connects maybe a little easier, right? So the light is coming in, reflecting off the trees, causing shadow, which goes across the entire page, okay? Now, one thing you have to be careful with charcoal, which I just did. If you rub it, it will blend. So I'm going to have to be careful here with drawing the rest of these trees out. So I'm going to draw another tree coming up right here, just like this. The hardest part really is the deer. But after you get the deer, you can really start to establish more of where the light source is and how the shadows really interact. So this comes back like this. This is where you can start to add a little bit of the effect of maybe there being a hill. So let's say that this is actually going uphill. I'm going to wait on that though. I'm not going to do that because we really need to just cover the basics with this and reestablish. If you do use charcoal and you do mess up, you can use a little bit of water actually and a Q-tip. And so in between those lines that I've made for where the shadow should be, you can actually go in there and with a Q-tip and some water, and you can fix this little area right here. So it works kind of neat how that works. So now I'm just putting some more trees. Now I can blend this area in a little more. So this whole area here now is going to be light, just like this. So we have this tree coming down, which is going to establish that area. And so this area here will be light coming back. And if you do this enough, you start to get an idea of how this works. Now, if you are doing this at home, and let's say you've played around with this a little bit with me here, you can understand now how challenging those earlier drawings really are by those artists who did those. It's just amazing to me how in the world someone can actually do that. Blows my mind. All right, so we have this tree here that's casting a shadow back this way. And you can start to play now. You know this line that we created, which is going to be the edge of the, let's say the edge of the forest where this light's coming in from. This is where you can really start to play around with how the light reflects. Now, we have some trees up here in the front, up here, close to where the light source is, but they're back a little bit from the light source. So if you just draw the line coming down, you can actually get the effect of that real easy right there, okay? So we have a line coming back from this tree, and so we're going to color all this in, just like that, and all the way back to where we stop, just like that, see? All right, so we're establishing more trees as we go, and that's the whole goal, is to make all kinds of trees in our forest. And as we do that, remember to put the edge of the forest extending. This line has to be as straight as you can make it, unless you want to add hills going up and down. If you do, that's okay too. Just remember though that you're going to have to be aware of where that light source is. So I'm going to put a tree back here. Now this is going to be a little challenging because I'm going to have to figure out where the light source is going to be after I put this tree in here. All right, so the tree goes up. Uh-oh, there we go, fix that. All right, so this is going to continue on this way, just like that. So now, where are these shadows? Where are they cast? We've got to figure that out, right? So this shadow I know is going to come back like this. Get wider like this as we go. This shadow comes back like this. This one comes back and connects with this one. So after you do this a few times, you get an idea of how it works, but it really takes some practice. It really does, because you really don't understand how a drawing is put together until you draw this way, which is backwards. Once you have, though, you can really get an appreciation for, and also you'll be a sense of gratitude that you can draw black on white, because really that's so much easier just to be able to go in and add shading with a graphite pencil instead of going in and drawing all these light sources, right? So you get an idea of how that works. Now, I had a couple more trees out in this way, and then we'll start to work on the tips of the trees and those sorts of things, right? So here's another tree here. Maybe put another tree up here in the front like this. All right, now notice I'm not drawing all the way up. I'm just drawing to a certain point and stopping, okay? The reason for that is I want to know where exactly I need to be putting those shadows, okay? So these lines will be coming back this direction. Same for this side like this. Remember to make them spread as they get closer to you. Spread apart, just like that. So these lines will eventually connect, as you can see. It comes up like this, connect at the top. So that means that inside of here is all white, just like this. And once it hits that tree, see how it does? It hits the tree. You can add a little curvature to it if you want. It hits that tree, and there's a break. That's where the shadow is. Now this is all white out through here. And of course, beside of it, going more towards the right of the paper, over here, we can draw more of the forest edge right there and add a little more white in this area. So what we have basically is established this whole forest full of trees at nighttime. And we could keep on going forever with the trees. You can make them wide, you can make them thin, you can make them thick. It's up to you. But if you wanted to continue with your forest, you can. But I do want to focus before we actually stop today on the tops of the trees, adding those branches in, and a little bit more detail around our light source too, okay? So you can see how this would expand and expand and expand and expand. It could keep going and going and going. We could put one more tree right here just because I want to real bad. And just like that, okay. And edge of the forest a little more, right? Shadow going back this way. So that means this area is lit up. And see, the more you do this, the better you get at it. This isn't really a technique that I have used a whole lot, to be honest. So it's something that, I could definitely improve at. We all could keep improving. That's the thing about art, is that the more you do it, the better you get at it. Just like with anything. That's not just with art. That's with life, isn't it? The more you do something that you're interested in, the better you get. All right, so now we have this forest drawn. Now we need to put some limbs of the trees up at the top. So now you have up here is a line coming up from each tree, right? So what we need to do is go ahead and start putting these little lines coming out, just like this. And you can do this in sporadic ways. You don't have to do a whole lot of them. You only want to do so much. You don't want to connect a whole lot of them because it's only the tips of the trees that are actually being reflected. So you have just a certain amount of the limbs that you can see, and you can keep going up with the tree even on each side like this, adding a little bit more detail to the tree. But also, as you go up higher, you just want to worry about drawing the lines that are closest to the light source. So if there's any lines out here, you may just want to put a couple little marks, which I've added one I didn't want to, but that's okay. Made a couple of marks out this way like that. And now as you get closer in, you need to be aware of which one's trees and which one's shadows. So you don't want to add some limbs to your shadows, right? You could, I guess, if you wanted to. It'd be some interesting forest, but so I'm just putting some different little marks, little hashes throughout the drawing, and you continue this all the way across until you've added or filled in a lot of your space, right? So that's all we're doing, is just looking to fill in some space here. We're not getting really super detailed. We just want this to look and reflect that there's limbs from trees. As you go up the tree, there's of course going to be limbs. Here's where we put like breaks in it. You could keep going on up and higher if you wanted. So we're just showing the shadow. And you could also include a whole lot of different shapes up through here. So as you get closer to the tops of the trees, you're not going to be able to see a lot of the really, really small details because all these limbs are starting to take over now, right? So you can imagine looking up, standing in a forest, just looking up, and you can't really tell where one limb starts and the other begins, or one ends and one begins, because there's so many in a very dense forest. You can't really see a whole lot. So we need to make sure that we reflect that in our drawing by just making the little sporadic lines ever so often. Now we've got this shape that we've created. We have all these different types of trees and shadows and things all throughout our drawing, which is really good. But we want to go ahead and actually include a couple more things in our drawing. And what I'd like to include is actually some more definition around our light source, which I guess we'll call a moon. We'll call it a moon, okay? So let's go ahead back to our light source now. And what I want you to do, now be careful, because you don't want to shade in an area. Oh, see, I said shade in. We're using light. So this is actually going to be, you don't want to lighten in an area, maybe, I guess is how you would say it. That is supposed to be a shadow. So what I want you to do is go in right around your light source, very lightly. And look, I'm not taking it all the way into the light source. I'm just right around the edge of it, leaving a little bit of a halo of darkness, right? That sounded terrible. I don't know what's a halo of darkness, but that's kind of what it is. It's a shape that goes around the moon that sort of just kind of isn't darkened in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to very lightly go around the object just like this, and try not to bring it all the way down to the forest floor, because we really want this line right here to establish the floor, what I call the floor anyway. We want to go ahead and shade in, I did it again, lighten in at this area where all the light source is. Okay, that kind of gives the effect that, there's light extending off of this. It's not just a big round ball of white out there. There's something happening with this big round ball of white, and what's happening is it's casting off a shadow. On all the things that it touches, it's casting off a shadow. And this is kind of easy to do. I'll say easy, or easier than this anyway, if you're drawing black on white paper or dark on white paper, because adding those shadows in, it's like, okay, I've got this, I don't color there, or don't really shade in there. I can shade in over here, but we're doing the same technique as we would if we were using white paper and a dark medium, but in reverse. And that can be really challenging because your mind wants to tell you that you need to go ahead and just shade in all that area, but we're not shading, we're lightening in area, which is really, really, really tricky to the mind. The mind wants to say, don't do that, shade it in. And the other part of your brain says, no, wait a minute, I'm trying to do something different here. And there's a constant conflict the entire time you're drawing. Where do I lighten in, or where do I don't shade? That's what we're trying to establish here. So be sure, the whole point of my whole rant just then is to make sure that you understand, don't lighten in areas that's supposed to be shadow. Because if you do, your entire drawing just goes to kaput, right? And I'm trying my best not to, but my brain is saying, go ahead, you can do it. Just color in this whole area here, and it's going to look just what you want. But I know it's not. My mind's trying to trick me right now. And your mind will try to trick you too as you do this. Your mind will tell you the same thing, but just don't listen to it. Do your best. Just like when you want to have a second piece of that birthday cake, or you want to have another donut after you've eaten like half the bag. Wait a minute, you don't do that? I do that. Anyway, okay. Anyway, my mind will tell me, hey, it's okay. You can have that other big scoop of ice cream, but you know you probably shouldn't. Well, in this case, your brain's going to tell you, go ahead. That area needs a little bit of that white, and it's going to darken in magically. That's not what happens, is it? Because if I go in and start coloring this area, it's going to ruin the entire, all the effort I put forth so far to make this look like it's hopefully looking will be destroyed. So I'm continuing on a little bit more in between the trees. And a good thing is to bring it to the edge of those trees too, because if you do that, what will happen is it'll reinforce where you've made a shadow. And I'm getting a little bit lighter. The farther I go out from my light source, the lighter the marks I'm making. See what I'm doing? I'm lightly pressing down, lightly pressing down. If you continue to do this, you can make an entire scene where there's just nothing but trees and shadows and all that good stuff. But unfortunately, we don't have the time to do that. So always put your name on your paper. Always sign it. If you've drawn along with me today, we would love to see it. Send it in to me here at Pike TV on the Art Workshop at ChristopherEpling@gmail.com. Now, as you can see, we could continue going on. This is a difficult approach to this medium. I mean, all we're using is light and dark. That's it. We're not doing any detail. But as you can see, it can really be challenging. Am I completely happy with this? I'm saying I'm as happy as I can get within the time constraints of the show. But it could be better, yes, of course. But then again, I'm pretty satisfied with the effort. Please, if you get time, log on to the Pike TV YouTube channel. And if you do that, you're going to find all the listings of all past shows, which is really cool. All of that's listed there. Really nice playlist of other content that Pike TV has. It's all established, ready there for you to go in and just indulge. And let me tell you something. When you go to the Pike TV YouTube channel, which is Pike TV 99 on YouTube, just search for that in the search bar. You can have a second helping of whatever you want, and it won't hurt one bit, I promise you. It will not hurt at all. If you want to watch everything that's on there, it'll probably be good for you, I'd say. There's a lot of good content. Also, while you're there, hit that subscribe button, because when you do, all new stuff that's put on the Pike TV channel, you get a little notification. You don't get a ringing cell phone call or someone beating at your door at 3:30 in the morning. It's just a little beep that pops up on your device and it says, hey, want to watch something else is on here? You can, just hit this button. You don't have to at that time if you're busy, sleeping, working, whatever. But when you get time, you can. You can click that button and check out what's new on Pike TV. So thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you more than you know. And until next time, I'm Christopher Epling. And remember, keep drawing.